Hello. Let's see. When you come into the chat. Let me know you're here. Let me know you're here, you guys. It's 2026. We're here. We're here. Hey, Newport is here. Oh my goodness, it's midnight. Um, as you guys come into the chat. Let me know you're here. Let me know, Newport, can you hear me? Just say yes if you can hear me. We are in a really interesting place. Great. We're in a really interesting place in the Empire's group trajectory because I've been kind of intentionally moving people, either moving them out of Empires and into some other program or out of Empires and into one-on-one, because I'm having this like observation that, like the people who really do well in this program, I don't even care about people who are doing well in this program. People who do well in their businesses tend to be getting that non-cookie cutter, like one-on-one, you and me hashing it out advice. So you're gonna be seeing this group get really small and intimate and like kind of high touch for at least like the month while I decide what I want to do next, whether I want to keep Empires as a group program, or whether I'm going to basically make Empires into more of a one-on-one offer, which is effectively what's kind of naturally happening to it, and then do the group work on some broader topics that are just a little less, execution sensitive, because it's in the sensitivity to how we execute in business. That's like everything. And that's the piece that makes Empires like really great with some one-on-one. So here's the thing though, I have a bunch of stuff we need to do together before we make any moves. So I'm excited that we're here. I have so much to talk to you about. And I also want you to know that like the next, I'm going to just start with the substantive stuff, like the work, the business, actual like strategy stuff. Okay. We are in 2026. Most of you that are in this program or watching this video created an offer in 2025, created a group, an offer I call a mothership or core offer or empire offer, a group recurring revenue offer with some upsells to a one-on-one experience with you, proximity offer to you. And these offers, for the most part, are great. They are mostly great. This year is our time to get more people exposed to your offer. And there are a number of ways to do that. This is like getting more customers to your offer by getting more people getting your offer in front of more of the right, best fit people. Okay, we did a lot of tinkering with offers last year and validating of offers last year. And now for almost everybody who will have access to this teaching, your focus needs to be getting more people to see your offer, to understand your offer, to know that it's for them, to enroll in your offer. There are many ways to do that I think are valid and would like to see you do or try this year. Really try, really focus on. And in December, a lot of what we talked about was the need to not set so many goals, not click into that like project, I got to make it happen mode, to the level that we're not able to focus on and give any one of these strategies, all of which kind of work, the chance to actually work. So that's what we're doing right now, just to kind of, because it's been a couple weeks since we've talked, is every single one of us is picking the focus that we need to have, and we're letting it be relatively singular. All right. While also knowing that the way business works is that if you decide that you're going to focus on running ads into your offer, that's going to require you to tune back into the essence of the offer and make sure the messaging and positioning is right. That's going to require you to remind yourself who you created this for and why it's for them and what they get out of it, what the UDO is, what the pillars are, what the path is, right? It's going to require you to create a landing page that's more appropriate for cold people instead of just a Google Doc that's appropriate for people who already know you, right? And then it's going to require you to actually create that ad content, both the Spark sort of ad video we've been talking about in the school group and in my teachings in December, and actual individual ad videos, ad creatives, ad copy. All right. So while I'm saying we're going to have the singular focus on ads, there's a whole, if you choose to focus on ads, if you choose to focus on YouTube, if you choose to focus on Instagram, whatever it is that you're going to choose to focus on, you personally this year to get more people to your offer is going to naturally upgrade, level up, improve the whole rest of your, and realign the whole rest of your offer. If you have been reading, I've just started this baby tiny Substack. I've got like a couple of posts on there. And the most recent post was about how, like, we're not, even though everybody's saying like 2025 was a snake year and 2026 is a horse year, just all rapid manifestations all the time. Horse year doesn't begin for another like 4 or 5 weeks. So many of us are still in that mode, not necessarily of just like moving slow and just shedding, but there is still an energy of, as you're coming into January, as you're setting your vision, your intention, and your goals for this year, I think some of what's wanting to be shed is like the goals that ain't really good goals for you. They're not really aligned goals for you. They're not really the things that give you the most life or light you up. And so this way of singularly focusing on ads or whatever, YouTube, Instagram, whatever you're focusing on, even if I know at least one or two of you still has like an offer to validate, is an opportunity, like an invitation to like really review your entire offer, your entire vision for your business, and shed what no longer aligns, shed what no longer serves, shed what no longer works, even if it just no longer works for you. Right. And make sure that what it is that you're opening, this is one very common reason that people do avoid ads and avoid growth strategies in general is, I'm not really sure if I want that as my business if there's a lot of people in it. Because that seems like I'd have to do a bunch of this, and I'm fine with doing that if it's like 1 or 2 people or 5 people, but the idea of like 100 people wanting that from me doesn't feel good. This is a great moment in time, this just few weeks. Because so what I'm gonna say is, if you're like coming back into the world, it's January, you're waking back up, you're coming back into the world, and you just I know several of you just didn't do any of the stuff that was posted in school in December for you guys to do. Very few people have done all of it. Just, I know this from talking to you guys individually. I think maybe one person finished all of it. And that's fine. That was then, this is now. There's literally, y'all enjoyed your holidays and I did too. I bought a house. I closed on my house yesterday. So we all had a lot of stuff going on. I want you to make sure you go back. All of the stuff that I posted in the school group, in the Empire School group for December, it was like that 2020 in the classroom, it's like 2026 Kickstarter, something like that. You need to work through those things sequentially. You need to actually do those assignments. And I think there are like 4 kind of categories of assignments, and they will take you a couple of hours. But if you want to get more people to your offer and you want my help doing it, that's what you're going to need to do. Also, just a reminder, I did offer a sort of gift one-on-one session with me to set your own personal roadmap for the year. I want to make sure you're taking advantage of that, because we are at a place in Empires where everybody's kind of coming in at a little bit of a different place. And I want you to have not a cookie cutter sort of like, what should I be doing? I want you to have a very personal for you, what should I be doing? So make sure you book that call if you haven't booked that call. So those are the two things. Go through the entire December set of assignments in school, in the classroom, if you have not gone through them already. There, you will hit moments. I have heard almost everyone who has even started was like, oh, I hit this one and it was like kind of hard and I didn't know what to put there. Great. That means you're doing it right. That means the exercises are working. The exercises are working. They are like requiring you to dig deeper into how you want to be and who you're becoming in your business and what your offer actually is and how you want to talk about it. That's going to be fresh and new for you today. So go through the December assignments, the 2026 like kickoff assignments in the school classroom for Empires if you have not already. If there are refreshers that you need, or if you want to like go back to one of the sprints, like the Empire Offer in 10 Days sprint or whatever, you can still, I don't think that those are in school yet. You can still look for them in the main Empires portal, that membership.io portal. It's like empires.tarakirk.com or something. Send me a message in DM in school or on WhatsApp if you're not sure how to get back to that, but you still have access to all of those sprints. And then what we're going to do for the rest of this month is this focus on getting more people to your offer, which inherently will require you to level up the offer to where you are at vibrationally right now. Ads, and we're going to do that by focusing the sessions this month will focus on ads. Okay. Ads are going to become a new module for us. We are having Jen Posick, who has been my own ad runner. She ran the last bunch of ad campaigns that I ran. She's going to join us for live sessions. I am like 99% sure they will be next Thursday, January 15th, and then 2 Thursdays after that, January 29th. And she's going to be walking us through step by step how to implement ads for leads and ads for launches. Obviously, Jennifer is an ad runner. So if you just decide it's like too much for you, you need help, she can help you do it, but she'll actually show you how to do it. And it's not that complicated. It's just really different from the way that most of us think. Now, I want you to be ready. What I would prefer not to have happen is have her come to teach us about ads and then have you still have to do 3 weeks of work to get ready. That's why I'm really emphasizing, please go back through the 2026 get ready focus material that's in school and start that work right now. Okay, because getting ready requires you to set some intentions about what you're focusing on, requires you to revisit the messaging and positioning for your offer. Depending on who you are, it may require you to reset on what your offer actually is a little bit, get some new clarity about what your offer actually is. Like you just heard me say, actually, Empires is really like kind of becoming this thing that I need to work with people more one-on-one. So we may just lean into that and let that become what Empires becomes. And then I have this sort of like pre-step to Empires concept that we may make be more the recurring sort of group membership. Like it's in the process of doing all of that work to get ready for ads that you'll have these clarities, and we need to make these shifts relatively quickly. So ready to run ads includes you've drafted your entire shitty rough draft Spark ad video script. And as far as I know, only one person has done that. Ready is that. And I do need to know when you're done with that. Okay. Because what I'm trying to avoid doing is adding a bunch of new tasks for you to do when I know you haven't done those things. I don't want to like create overwhelm. Okay. So when you're done with the shitty rough draft of your Spark ad video, I want to know and I want to look at it. And then from there, we're going to lock and load your sales page. with that video recorded. And then we need to lock and load your ad content and copy and creative, and Jen will help us get all of that done. And I 1000% believe that if you have an offer that's already validated, you can do that this month. You can do that this month, all of these things. Okay. So that's the job for this month. Especially if you're focused on ads, which I think almost everybody in here is or should be, unless you know that you have a different, objective of like getting your offer crafted or getting your offer dirty launched. Okay. So what I want you to do is come to your one-on-one calls ready. Come with as much of that work done and ready for feedback as you can. Or if you're feeling really like blocked and stymied on those projects that are in the 2026 focus section of school, come to your one-on-one call with me ready with whatever it is that you feel like is a blocker on that. If you want to really make the most of that one-on-one time, even email me stuff in advance. Email me your Spark Ad video, shitty rough draft script. Email me what you think is a blocker. Email me the spreadsheet, the 4-hour spreadsheet. Okay, email me all of that stuff in advance. The more you send me in advance, the more you'll get out of our one-on-one call. Okay. Now, does anyone have questions about that? Are we good with that? Your job now is to go to school. I'm going to actually go there and see what it says. Like what it's actually called. Here we go. And I will show it to you. Yeah, Jenna's the bomb, by the way. Okay, so here. Go to the Empire's Classroom. This is what I'm talking about, this 2026 prep resources. Click that. And I want you to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. And when you're done with this, I want you to let me know and let me review what you come up with. Okay. All right, great. Okay. Now, what are you guys thinking about for 2026? What goals are you setting, or what vision and intention are you setting in your, like, not even just in your business, in your lives? I want to share some of the insights that I've been having that I think will be relevant, but I'd like to see what you guys are setting for your goals. I want to make sure, I'm going to tell you the tiniest story about getting yourself into receptive mode, making sure that as you set these goals for your year, you don't veer into that hard, like, project mode. This is the way Tara says this has to happen, is the only right way. I want you to not switch into that, like, surrendering your agency where you're waiting for me to say what you can do next, to do the thing that you already know you need to do next. Okay. Like I'm like really all in on being a co-creator with you on your business in this year. But I also know for sure, like I had this experience last week. It was New Year's and there was no school, and there had not been school for a while. And I have had my time and my days hijacked a lot around this house project, this property I'm buying. That's like this tiny guest house hotel that we're going to live in the top and activate and monetize the bottom and the grounds. This project, kind of was a vision from 2020, like Farm by the Beach, right? You guys have heard me say that a bunch of times. And it actually happened, which is pretty cool. And it's the first of many. Actually, as I was closing yesterday, someone was like, "Oh, hey, so this is the number of the guy for the Conselho, which is like it's kind of like county, who loans 80% of the money on hotel projects specifically. So, like, for your next one, like, here are a couple properties. This guy has money. He's looking for projects to fund. Like, the money has really come in a wild way, like, in a wild way. In fact, it was a lot of money. And I had sourced all of the money. And then at the last minute, like a month before closing, um, one of the sources for the money just absolutely fell apart. Absolutely fell apart. And I was like, all right, so this is really such a test of all the stuff we've looked at over the last year. The Neville Goddard work that we did in like at the end of 2024, the dissolutions, the Richard Dot's dissolutions and the money block dissolutions. There was just all of this like inner work I was doing. And it was really at a place where it was like so much money that was needed in such a short period of time that I couldn't have. There was just like, no, it was gonna have to manifest. It wasn't gonna be like money I could figure out how to, in my human effort, earn. But I started to envision, I just started to do the inner work, and I was like, it'll work out if it's supposed to work out, if it's supposed to be this temple, this church that I've talked about, this place where I get to sort of experiment with this hotelier like thing. If it's supposed to happen, it will actually happen. And there were like a couple of people I knew who had been talking about wanting to do projects in the dollar amount range that it would have needed to be. And I had those conversations. I put some stuff together and I had some conversations, and it just like wasn't right. In fact, several of them were like, "Oh yeah, I have that money. I'm interested. Let's talk about it." And then as I started to talk with them about it, it was a little bit like your offer can feel if it's not in total alignment, right? I was like, "Oh, I could like it'd be great if the money came in, but I have these like I was like feeling like I was gearing myself up to deal with some of the other side effects of working with those people. And and then they just, people who were saying they were the right people. This is why we don't ask for feed. We don't run focus groups and ask people to tell us if they like our offers or not. We just ask them for the money. We give them the offer and we ask them for the money. That's the only feedback we need, right? That's what Lunch Dirty is. So I was like, all right, well, this needs to close. So are you in or are you out? And people were like, oh, I'm out, but maybe I can, no, and I was like, no, that's not the energy. And so I just kept doing my inner work, and I kept tuning to the channel of what is it that I'm actually creating? What do I love about this project? What is it that like I'm trying to do here, not just in this month or, with this cash, but like in a bigger picture way. And I kind of just like dialed into the essence of that and had a lot of conversations with God and the goddess. And I was like, well, if I was going to do this bigger thing, this is the way that I would like to partner with people in it. This is how I'd like to feel. Just like I ask you guys all the time, how do you want your clients to feel on the other side of your offer? I was like, this is how I want to feel in my partnerships. And it was great that I've already like been in this like relationship for a short period of time that is so revolutionary and different from how I have experienced relationships before. Because I was like, I want to feel like that in this. I want to feel like eager and excited and without reservation and without this like, I'm going to have to, you know what I mean, deal with them or manage them on this or like keep them to this piece of it. I don't want to feel like that in the, bigger project that I was envisioning. And as soon as I thought about the bigger thing, different people started to occur to me. Think of it as like almost like your offer and your best fit client. There was this moment where I was like, "Oh, these people have shown me they're saying with their mouth that this is what they want, but the way that they're talking when we start talking about these dollars exhibits all this scarcity and all this, like, fear that I just don't want on board in my world because I don't personally have that. I don't wanna bring that on." I was like, "Huh, well, I know these people, but I think they only would be interested at actually a bigger thing, in a different frame and a bigger thing." Um, and so I texted one friend who I was like, I would love I feel like that when I'm with her and her husband. Like, I would love to work with them on a project, and I just think they would be like easy. I would have no reservations if they were with me on this project. And I just texted her, "Hey, like, here's the thing I'm thinking about. Like, do you guys want to invest in this?" I sent them the document. Um, they just wired the money. They were like "Sure, we're interested at this level," which was the level I had been trying to get to with the other people. They're like, "We're really interested in the 5x that level. So if you can do that, that'd be great. But we're traveling right now. We know you're trying to close this. Why don't we just wire you this? And then we can talk about like how to come into this later." And so, it was really, and they did. And it was no, I mean, we didn't have a deck. We didn't have a long conversation. We didn't have a back and forth. These are people who've known me for a really long time. They know I make money with my projects. And they were just like, all the way in with no reservation, and they were the people who, like, you know, they were people I had invited Spirit to bring this project together with some at first, I was like I was hesitant, and so I wanted it to kinda, like, go slow. Seriously. And so for the first couple of months of the project, it did. And then there was a time where I was like, I'm ready for this, and I'm ready for this to be easy, and I'm ready for it to be as big and beautiful as it wants to be. I'm ready to stop saying I'm just like buying this little house and ready to start saying like I am building a temple. Right? Like, I am literally building a place where multiple of us gather in spirit, a temple for well-being, a temple for creation, a temple for longevity, a temple for, business, a temple for art, a temple for radical thought, a temple for writing. And this will maybe be one of, I don't know, a dozen, 11, 7, 20. I don't know, but I think it's bigger than just one place or one building. And when I started to think and talk like that, really different people got interested. Okay. The money came in really easily. There were glitches happening all over the deal. I mean, I had to go get a bunch of medical exams for a mortgage. Like, guys, I literally had to have an EKG, I had to have blood work, I had to have an ultrasound for the mortgage. And it was like every day they wanted a new medical test. So I was having to drive here and do that and go there. And I kind of just was like, not minding it all. Not minding it all. Like, if you're have been in this program for a while, you know the Richard Dot's work is like, give it to not mind. And I was like, "Imma just give it to not mind. I'm gonna give to not mind my stress about my calendar. I'm gonna give like, being blown up by this deal. I'm gonna give, like, the people who said they were gonna do it, who didn't do it, it's all to not mind. I'm giving it all to not mind. These glitches have nothing to do with me. This is, like, just how think deals come together." And you know what else I gave to not mind? This old saying that's been in my mind forever since I was a real estate lawyer, like almost 20 years ago, 2001, over 20 years ago. My broker used to tell us all the time that time kills deals. Time kills deals. Don't let time go by. Force, push, make it happen, get it closed because time kills deals. And I was like, you know what? I literally just, not mind, spirit, God, goddess, source, All That Is, and me, which are all the same thing, just proved that exactly wrong. That by letting this play out in divine timing, I ended up without a bunch of potentially problematic people in my world, in my life, in my project, in my home, in my bank account. I ended up with like none of them involved in it. I ended up with like actually way superior partners and collaborators. And like I did all this inner work around getting, what's my resistance to getting help? Why do I think it's bad to have help? Actually, that part that I'm saying just needs help is an empire builder. Empires aren't built alone, right? It is both okay to empire builders need help, and it's also okay to just need help, right? Just because you need help. I even had this idea this morning. I was like, you know what they call an accomplishment where you had a lot of help doing it? An accomplishment. Nobody is out here thinking that the people who build the big enterprises of our world are needy because they get venture capital funding or they have investor funding or they have no one's out here thinking um the writers, the best-sellingest male writers of our time, something's needy or wrong about them because they have wives at home making their lunches so they can write without interruption. Nobody says that. It's us telling ourselves that time kills deals. I honestly think time brought this deal together in this very highest good kind of way, to the point where I'm like, this house that I was calling Casa California, because where I live is very full of Californians. Um, I think we'll end up calling it the temple, and it'll be the temple of highest good, because that's actually what time, and I think that's what you mean by alignment. That's what I think of when I think of alignment. It was like time actually yielded the highest good. I ended up raising 5 times the money that I needed. I ended up with funding in advance for the next project, where I had been like, "Well, I'll do this one and see where it goes." And I'm like, "No, send me the listings for the other properties." You know what I'm saying? Um, it's been a really, and I think we need to and also like my joy in knowing that it's like, gosh, it was such a wonderful thing for someone that I have known for a very long time. Time yields trust, right? Time yields clarity. Time yielded resources. And then it all was fast from then. But I think even the idea that it needs to be fast or that fast in itself should be worshiped, we got to like pump the brakes on that. What I do think happens is time lights up. Time lights you up to your golden opportunities, to your right people, to your right partnerships, to your right offers. But time like lights up different synapses in your brain, and you see opportunities differently. You see your offer differently. Literally, what happened in that process was I saw the investment, the way I'd been talking about this investment to people. I revised that offer because I saw that, like, I was really, like, and I was not, it wasn't small potatoes even at the beginning, but it just wasn't the right level for the right people. And once I, like, cracked the code on that frame, it was so easy, it was so smooth, it was so, like, fun actually to think about doing this project with my friends, and it was also so nice because they kind of were like, you just do it. Like, we don't need any input. Just like, just do it. We'll call you when we get back from Korea and we'll talk about like the rest of the money. Um, and that lit up new other ways like that. It just elevated and upgraded. I'm experienced in the business, in the transformation business, online, but this is like a little bit me entering the transformation business in hospitality. And I'm not as experienced in that, except as a consumer. So it was like a beautiful vote of confidence and this moment of like identity shift for me to step into like, oh, hey, this is not, this is very from the beginning of this. This is not, I have a house and I put some Airbnb rooms in it. This is like, I'm a transformational hospitality entrepreneur from day one with investment money from day one and investment money at a level that is significant in Portugal. Um, so, yes, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And I think we don't need to worship delay. We don't need to create delay, but we do need to let things take the time they take. And we do need to allow that time to elevate or adjust the dial on our offers, on our framing, on our vision, on our asks, on what we're asking and what UDO we're painting. Because I will tell you, once I started to see the bigger opportunity, I couldn't talk about the offer and the offer in the same way. I had to elevate the way I was talking about the offer. And that activated synapses in like the just right people. And that led me to, so that was done, and I was glad, and so happy at the way it came together. And then I was like really starting to think about content, right? Content for this year. How are we, like, what am I envisioning? What am rethinking this offer, rethinking, my approach to content based on what I know my life is now, based on what I know my days are going to look like now. Right in there, as I was like, "Oh, I just wish I could take 2 days and just sit down and work," but I also had London home. I got this email, and this started this little chain of like, I think that time of like raising the money for that property was very much a time of me stepping into this thing I heard Cody Sanchez say about how, what did she say? Closed mouths stay broke. There was a little where I was like, okay, if you need help closing this deal, you need to like open your mouth because you know a lot of people with a lot of money and who would want who want in on this project. You're just not talking about it. So I was like leaning into that. And then I was like, had a moment where I just wanted to like process and like almost like savor that and like immerse in the content vision and document my vision for content this year and start creating the content. But I also had this like really high energy 8-year-old who was like hanging on me and climbing into my clothes all the time. So there was this pivot of me calling in, like, I just need a couple days to like think. And I got this email from this woman who has run a camp that London used to go to. Hey, at the last minute, we decided to do a January 2nd and 3rd art camp for the kids at Peñalonga, which is this Ritz-Carlton. You've heard me talk about before because it's the first place we stayed here in Portugal. It was an old monastery that they turned into a Ritz-Carlton. So it's this beautiful place. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I literally was just saying, I wish I could have 2 days to like work. And here we get these 2 days. So I take Lynn to Peñalonga and drop her at this art camp she's delighted to go to because she already knows the people. She already knows the other kids. And that is usually, it takes a whole day to get her comfortable to stay someplace. Had none of that. And I go sit in the lobby. No, I go to breakfast that day. And I'm not staying at the property, right? Because we live here. But I say, can I have breakfast? And they're like, yes, we just have like a flat rate of 40, it's 40 euros for breakfast. And I'm like, I really need I need 2 poached eggs. That's all I need. And they're like, it's still $40. And I'm like, they're 40 euros. And I'm like, it's fine. I actually said, I'm sure you guys will figure it out. So I go sit down because like $20 an egg is a lot even for me. And so I go sit down and I start working. And first I start just doing my ritual and I'm like writing and I'm like, you know what I should do? Because my little list of things that I wanted to see happen in my life that I made like in 2025, I was making that list for the next 10 years, and it's already almost done. So I was like, it is time to download some new beautiful moonshot, just experiences that I would like to I'm calling them moonshot manifestations, but they're like just experiences I wanna have, and I'm not gonna do anything hard to go get them. This is the God box technology. Some of you guys know this, some of you guys don't, right? But the idea is you just like write down the thing you want just because you want it, not to be silly, but something you really want. You can call it a goal, you can call it a vision, you can call it a desire, whatever. And you just write it down and you just put it in a box and you just walk away from the box and you literally don't do anything about it. And my clients over the years who have used the God box, I call it the God box technology, um, always report back the first time they do it. Like they look at the end of the year and they're like, oh my goodness, literally every single thing I put in the God box happened. And I didn't go out trying to make it happen. And none of their New Year's resolutions before were happening, where they were like setting the goal and trying to make it happen. None of that was happening. So I was having this moment of just being like, you know what? I'm gonna set a few moonshot manifestations. And one of them was that there are 3 hotels in Portugal that I frequent that I love. Um, really just 3. I frequent a couple more, but there are 3 that I love. And I was like, I shouldn't pay. I shouldn't pay to go to these places. They should pay me. They should pay me for marketing consulting. They should pay me for culture consulting, or for like programming consulting or like whatever. As an influencer, I don't care, but I should not be paying when I'm there. They should be paying me. So I just tossed it into my journal. I'm not doing anything to make this happen, right? But we do rewire our own attractor patterns and our own neural pathways when we set manifestations, desired creations, new realities, and we speak to ourselves and say, I want that just because I want it. Not because I don't have to prove that I'm worthy of wanting it. I don't have to explain why I want it, just because I want it, and I do. So let's just say that I spend the next 2 hours, and of course, I'm like, "Actually, you know what? I do want" I'm like, "I want a green tea. Actually, can I have an espresso?" Like, I was really in a writing vibe, and I had sat down and I had this idea that I was gonna work on my content calendar. I was gonna work feverishly for these, because time was going by, and I was like, "Okay, I got 2 good hours right now. I'm gonna work on this content calendar." But that's not what wanted to happen. What wanted to happen is that last Substack post wanted to come out, and it really wanted to come out. And I was like, Tara, I had this conversation with myself where I was like, this was the thing that so many of us in this program experienced last year was we set a plan and we had a way we wanted it to go and we had a way we are going to make it happen. And so we kept working really hard on the project of this thing and making it into a school project that we made happen. And it gets a little burnouty. It gets a little shitty. And thank goodness the things that we're creating in that energy tend to not take off. But the things that did really well for me last year financially were not things that I like super tried to make happen. So I was like, how about you do this? I had read my purpose code, which actually I should send you guys as an exercise. I don't think most of you have done purpose code. If you have done, I think Nick has probably done the purpose code, but I'm guessing the rest of you have not. I will send it out or put it in school and notify you. Joy may have done purpose code. I know my purpose code. It's a way of talking about the incarnation cross, which is 4 key points in your human design chart. And I made it up. I made up the purpose code exercise, but it's really deep. And I know what my purpose code is. Let me actually see if I can pull mine up, and then Emily, you'll get a glimpse at what it looks like. But I will send it out. It's very good. Let's see. It comes from the Tara-Nicholle method certification program. Okay, here is the exercise. And Emily, I know you're well versed in your human design, so you'll see this is basically just it's a sentence where you're filling in the blanks of the sentence with the 4 points of your incarnation cross, which is part of your human design chart. And then here's my example done with my actual chart, right? So I'm here to listen to the insights and breakthroughs within. By grounding myself in the practice of writing and speaking my radical ideas, serving others through the power of forgiveness, logical solutions, and radical self acceptance, and anchoring this with transformation, being a leader in relationships, and being revolutionary. Okay. So, this piece of writing that was trying to come through me was like, it was literally this. It was like, I'm literally here to do exactly this. So, I just decided, as much as like I, was telling myself that I needed to be working on my content calendar, my purpose code said differently. And so I started to just write, and I wrote that article and I put it up, and it actually got really great. Like in very Tara style, someone I know who's a literary agent. I mean, I have not uploaded my personal list into Substack yet. So there are like 25 people who follow me on Substack. One of them turns out is a literary agent who was like, "Can I represent your next book?" Out of literally, I have 2 posts up there and 25 followers, and she's like, "I would like to read the drafts of your next book and represent you on it if you are good with that." And I'm like, "We will see." Because I am interviewing you, actually, is how this is gonna go. But so I was just on fire. I was like the kitty in the memes. I'm in this beautiful, and I know for myself, based on my archetypes, I do well when I sit in beautiful hotel places and just write about my internal insights and turn them into actionable, practical solutions for other people. Okay. So I'm just writing like this for 2 hours, post it goes. In that time, an author who I barely know, whose work I've taught you guys a bunch in, especially in the LSM, emails and says she's going to be in Rome this weekend. Do I need a guest pass to Soho House to come see her workshop? And part of what I've been saying is like, oh, I need to travel. I need to see these other boutique hotel club membership club models and how they execute. So this is like, okay, I was like, oh, I could go to Rome this weekend and see Soho House as a comp for like my property. Um, and then the waitress walks up to my table, you guys, and is like, um, we'll be comping your breakfast this morning. And I'm like, I think you're going to be comping more than my breakfast before this is all over with, based on what I just wrote in my journal. And here you are, like an hour later, 2 hours later, I'm not paying for breakfast. Um, so it kind of was like this moment of being like, you know what? I don't even know if I can afford to work in ways that don't feel good anymore. It doesn't work. I don't make any money when I'm trying to make it all happen and do hard launches and do all of that. I make money when I'm the things that I actually desire and wrote in my journal as moonshot things. That stuff happened when I was just sitting in a beautiful hotel lobby writing, answering my purpose code, doing what my purpose code says very literally, taking my own inner insights from my own life, writing them down in ways that spark radical forgiveness and practical solutions for other people. I can't even afford not to do that. And yes, that's very much classic projector magic. I was like, wow, that was fast even for me. And some of you might say, like, hey, well, you said you want, your stays comped and your travel comped and your whatever. And I do. That was like 2 hours later. That is what we call metaphysically a sign of land. Like the sailors on ships back in the day would be at open sea for months on end. And before they had instruments, The way they knew land was coming was that they would see branches, they would see birds, they would see signs that land is about to come. And so for some of you, I want you to start to shift this idea. Everything that you're creating, every new reality you've called in, including in the business success that you want to have, the clients that you love, all of that, the money that you want, the things that you'll buy with that money, all that stuff, it all becomes real through an activation sequence. All right, it all starts, and you know this, it starts in your mind. It starts with the idea, the inspiration, and then over time, over a gestation period, it becomes a real tangible reality that you can see in your bank statements and you can touch, right, in the form of the things you bought with that money, right? You see on your calendar because you're like talking to your people like I'm talking to you right now. That is a sequence. There is a gestation and creation process that has to happen from things to go for things to go from like idea to real things. Um, I want you to not wait until it's in your bank account to call it real. It's real when you have the idea. It's real when you let yourself want what you want. And if you allow it to be real, then what starts to happen is, remember, we've talked about all this like reorganizing your life around the thing. Your energies begin to organize around it. You begin to carry yourself differently. You begin to broadcast different signals. You begin to make different decisions. So, like, one thing that came up for me as I was writing that was like, hey, I used to have a big consulting business that literally did that kind of work. And when I was building that business, what I was doing was writing a lot of guest posts. I wasn't so much doing a lot of the social media stuff that is important and is good. I was writing guest posts, and those larger companies would see that work and call me. I never did outbound, ever did outbound business development when I was a consultant, like working for myself, never. So the next day, I wake up, and as so often happens, I'm writing in my journal and I'm writing something good. I'm writing about the 3 kinds of goals I want people to not set this year. And I'm like, I'm thinking, I'm in the Substack writing mode. I'm just going to write this and post it for Substack. But you know what happened instead was that morning, I'm like, I think my pump had been primed by the thought process and that experience of the day before. And I thought, instead of just putting this up on my Substack, I'm going to send this to a media outlet and see if they want to run it as a guest post. Right. And I sent it to an editor I'd had a conversation with a long time ago. I sent it to her. And I said, I'm not even sure if this is the kind of thing that you run. I do have a plan B in mind. And then I have my Substack as like a plan C, and it's a great article. I actually wrote a radical version of it and then dialed some stuff out to send it to media. In case I need to post it on my Substack, I'll post the radical version. But I thought, if nothing else, this has been great. The editor replied instantly. So if nothing else has been great at like rewarming, she said, I'm so glad to hear from you. Never does an editor say this. Okay. So it was just like a new way to reactivate that channel, which I am telling you guys, this is what will end up happening. 1 or 2 or all 3 of these hotels will end up paying me money. I will end up going to these places without paying. And it will happen because I sat down, I let myself want what I really want. And I did my purpose code. Actually, let me just drop the link to the purpose code in here for you so you don't have to wait. Okay. There's the link, and you have access. Okay. So I think the last lesson that I wanted to share is that that's really important in this moment. So I've already shared, do what you do to get into receptive mode. If for you that means be in beautiful places and write, do that. for everybody, it means follow your purpose code. Okay. And I think almost everybody here is pretty experienced with human design or is experienced enough to probably find those items on your chart. If you do not know how to find those items on your chart, I think everybody here can. If you can't, for any reason, just DM me or WhatsApp message me, and I will help you find the right line items on your chart to drop in to fill in the blanks on purpose code. Okay. Do get into receptive mode. Do follow your purpose code. Do watch the stories you tell about time. Time doesn't kill deals. Time opens doors. Time ripens. Time creates. What was yours, Emily? Time. I liked your verb. Time yields. Time yields alignment. And also, we don't need to slow things down. We need to be in a place where what we are in is in divine. We are in alignment with divine right timing, which will speed us up or slow us down as is in whatever direction is beneficial to us in that moment. Okay. And yes, sometimes spirit actually does be like if you had asked me, I would have said, I would not have had starting a tiny hotel on my bingo card. Well, it's like kind of already, I don't have to start it, but I'm taking it over. I would not have had that on my bingo card this year at all. That would have been like after, you know what I mean? Like, when I'm 55 or 60, seems like a good thing to do when you're older, right? When you're done with other stuff. That's not what's happening. You've heard me say, guys, for years, I'm going to start a church someday when I'm older. No, that's just not what's actually happening. And what's happening is now. And that was very accelerated by spirit. And I think when my nervous system hit like a little bit of an upper limit, spirit was like, let me help you pump the brakes a little bit. I'm going to just throw some glitches in there that'll slow it down. And I was fine with that. It was like when I was on my 40th birthday, we went to Croatia to ride bikes. I was an avid road cyclist back then, me and a bunch of friends. And I used to pray for wind on the hill, on the hilly days. I would pray for wind because I was so horrified at downhills. I hated downhills. I was the only cyclist in the world who loves the uphill. I love the hard, and I hate the downhill because I don't like feeling that out of control. And my friends all love to just bomb downhill. And they would be like, at the end of the day, they would be like, oh, there was like, all the big hills, but there was so much wind, right? Because to them, big hills is hard work on the uphill, fun on the downhill. But if there's wind, you're still pedaling against the wind on the downhill. And I would be like, girl, I know there was so much wind. I prayed for that wind. Okay. I called that wind in so I could have something to push against on the downhill. Can you believe that? Right? So sometimes we do that, and divine order and timing was like, okay, I can feel your nervous system hitting an upper limit. I'm going to give you some glitches to slow some things down, like blowing the wind against me coming downhill on the bike. And then I literally had a moment where then the bank was starting to do some weird stuff. They were ordering all these extra medical tests and all this stuff. And I remember sitting down with myself and being like, listen, you are God, and you called all these like slowdowns in, and you need to release them. It's your job. If you want this to be smooth sailing from here, you need to release it to just happen, right? So it's a little bit like if you've ever heard Abraham Hicks talk about she's like, what do you do to get into the vortex? You don't have to do anything to get in the vortex. The only thing you can do to get into the vortex, which is like the quantum field where all of your desires are available to you, the only thing you have to do to get in there is to stop resisting it. It's to release your participation in the ways of thought and the attachments and the grind and the hustle and the got to make it happen and the I'm not okay with myself or with my life until it happens. When you release all of that, You just be in the vortex, slipping. I think of you as of us as slipping and softening into the vortex, because it's really just like us being who we really are when we can trust and know that everything works out for us, right? So it was like that. It was like I had an express conversation with myself, spirit, God, goddess, the whole council. And I was like, y'all, it's okay. Like, I'm ready now. Let's do it. I mean, I probably had that conversation. The closing was moved and moved and moved and moved. I probably had that conversation like, it's Thursday as we're doing this session live. I probably had that conversation on like Sunday or Monday of this week, where I was like, oh, it's up to me to assent to release this to be smooth from now on. And I did. And then it was like, there were a couple of shenanigans kind of tried to happen. And then yesterday, I walked into the closing. There were all these people around the table, and they were all they were all speaking Portuguese at the same time over each other, just yelling. There was some kind of error. Somebody wrote a 0 when they should have wrote a 5. And I remember my agent looked at me and she was like, oh my God. And the other agent was like, well, we could do this and we could fix it this way. And I just sat down. I was like, in my mind, I was like, I've already released this to be smooth. So I'm just not even going to participate in this. I don't even know what this is, but I know I don't need to do anything for it to work out. It just will. And fortunately, I've now been at a Portuguese family Christmas dinner. So I now know that everybody talking at the same time and yelling at the same time and even arguing and whatever is literally just how they be with the people they love the most. So I'm like, I'm no longer disturbed by it. This is just how it is. And they worked it out. I walked out with keys and a deed. So I want you to really get real with yourself about whether you have said, done, experienced, existed, cast any spells, that even cast any of what Abraham would call rockets of desire to slow things down or to make them smaller, to get the wind to come to be not at your back, but at your front. And if you've been doing that in your business, I want you to let that be okay too. But I also want you, when the time is right and when you really feel ready to be in Nana ascending from the underworld into your rightful place, I want you to know you may need to expressly call off the wind. You might need to say, hey, I appreciate that. I appreciate these delays. They were beneficial to me. They have formed me into who I am. And I'm ready now. So it can be smooth from here. It can grow big from here if that's what you want. It can grow medium from here if that's what you want. Right? So I want you to allow that to happen and recognize that you might need to be the one who calls the wind off. I think I'm going to just check the chat. How is this resonating for you guys? How does this land? This is church. Yeah, this is church. This is beautiful, Emily. When we let ourselves steal minutes as gifts to ourselves, our lives become sweeter. Our temperaments become sweeter. We are no longer envious bystanders, standing on the sidelines and muttering, I'd love to, but yeah. And the myth that we must have more time in order to create is a myth that keeps us from using the time we do have. If we keep yearning for more, we're forever discounting what is offered. This by Julia Cameron, the author of The Artist's Way and The Right to Write and a bunch of stuff, great stuff. She's wonderful. Yeah, I had a wise woman writing guru tell me recently, like, don't participate in can't untils. Don't participate in can't untils. And I think for me, that tends to flip. I tend to go from, okay, I won't participate in I can't until I have more time, I have more days, I have more whatever. So historically, I'd be like, okay, then I got to make it all happen. And this actually brings me to the third thing I wanted to share, which I was not going to share, but I will, since that just so naturally segued to it. So I have really seen lately how I tend to trigger myself, not trigger in the PTSD way, trigger in the how I trigger my own migraines, how I trigger my own inflammation response. These are like neurobiological responses. And I think that I've been thinking that our neurobiology really offers us the gift. We don't think of it as a gift in this culture, but it is a gift that our neurobiology offers us at least three, probably many more, at least three kinds of brakes, brake pedals. Um, oh my gosh. At New Year's, we lost power for like 24 hours, a couple days after New Year's. And I took London all over this town. It was magical, including to this adventure park, Cova de Balea, which is like Whale Cove, where this entire 5,500 hectare, many acres, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful outdoor adventure park was open, and we were the only two people there. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is like so VIP, guys. And we had this like one woman who was working there just like walk us through this whole park. And I mean, this place was amazing. They had ropes courses, zip lines, a huge mud kitchen. There was a pool. There's like all this stuff for parents. It was amazing. But probably my favorite thing was they had all these little tiny mini Land Rovers, motorized Land Rovers that the kids could drive. Well, the kid, because it was just London there. So London, if you know London, you're not surprised to hear me say that London has been asking me to teach her how to drive since she was about 4. My answer is still no. Based on my experience that day at Cova de Balea, I will tell you that London has no business driving for a really long time because she does not know how to drive. She does not know how to drive. So we put her in this Land Rover, and the lady tells her, the brake and the gas and the brake, and what to do to get power and how to stop, and basically London just keeps running into the gates, running into the guardrails because she's distracted. There's so much stuff to see at this place. But at some point, the lady comes over to me and hands me a fob where I have the brake. I can stop the car from outside of the car. And I think this is a perfect metaphor for the neurobiological braking systems that we have built within us. All right. So one of them is our nervous system. Our nervous system being in defense mode, we think of as like a nasty self-sabotage root cause that we need to overcome. But what it actually is a brake where your nervous system is saying, like, this is too much. You're hitting this upper limit. Maybe it's an upper limit that's truly just a psychological story, an old psychological story about how good you're willing to let your life get before you start blowing shit up and blowing your own spot up and self-sabotaging. But usually it is some kind of an old story based on you really weren't safe at some point in history where you felt a lot like what you're feeling right now. Okay. So your nervous system being in defense mode, including like, hey, let's say you're a high achieving woman who worked in tech or corporate or whatever, and you were super burnt the fuck out after 100 years of being on deadline since you were in kindergarten. And so you left your job and now you're in your business and you're like, whatever I do not want to recreate that. I do not want to replicate that. I do not want to reconstellate that. So every time you get closer to success, in your business, that success is kind of all mixed up and intertwined with what you think you had to do to get money earlier in life that burnt you out. So your nervous system goes into defense mode, hits your brakes, like I could hit London's brake, hits the brakes from outside of the car. That's what leaves you feeling like, wait a second, I'm trying to do this thing, but I can't seem to focus on ads. I can't seem to focus, period. I seem to like get the wrong clients or frame my offers wrong or procrastinate or whatever. So nervous system in defense mode is one of those kinds of neurobiological breaks. In my world, that's clearly all of God's children, especially that have PTSD, have had those issues. But there are also like more physical manifestations of these breaks that I find are really common in really smart, really soulful, really sensitive, by which I mean you have super sensors. You see and sense things that other people do not see or sense. Women. So whether they're like neurodivergent or just were gifted children as kids or whatever, high achieving Black ladies, immigrant kids, all of these kinds of women, women with autoimmune conditions. I find this to be really common, that inflammation and migraines are similar neurobiological breaks, BRAKES, breaks. And so I am relatively new to migraines. I am not new to inflammation because I had an autoinflammatory condition that affected my spine for many years before I went into remission about like 2 years ago. And I have, I experimented my way into remission, but not in a really scientific experimentation way. Like I'm throwing everything I got at this shit because I cannot live like this anymore. And I have a child I need to be able to raise. So I did everything all at once and it worked. I walk, right? I've repaired a lot of my joints with PRP and other treatments, but because I was throwing everything at it, I didn't really come away with that super skillful, nuanced insight into what my inflammation triggers were. Now migraines are newer, and so I've been I got a migraine recently. And I realized, oh, I think I know what I did. One, I was on my period. The last time I had a migraine, I was on my period. When I'm on my period and don't sleep well, this is a known migraine trigger. I had started to allow myself to have, like, during the Christmas break, I'd had an espresso here, there. I let myself have a green tea again, and I was brewing it myself, which means I brew it super, super strong. So this day that I had a migraine, I had like 4 huge cups of really strong green tea. I had 1 espresso. I had slept for probably 5 hours. I was on my period, and then I had a kombucha, which is high in histamine, and there we were. There we were. Because I wasn't just triggering myself. I wasn't just putting myself into, like, let's call it migraine is like your brain's defense mode. Because for me, migraine is like, that's a wrap for you today, ma'am. You ain't doing nothing else today but sitting in a dark room. I thought, I didn't just expose myself to one trigger. I stacked my triggers I piled up a plate of triggers. I ate the whole plate. Good to know. Similarly, I had this time during the break of being at home. So I was like, I'm gonna work out a little bit more than I have been, right? Because as you know, I used to work out really intensely and then was advised that it was inflammatory to do so and stopped, and it really helped. So I was like, but I'm going to get some extra steps in since I'm home. And then I was I was watching the wardrobes on Emily in Paris while I was on the treadmill. And then I was like, I'm just gonna do some like extra stuff because I'm here and I can and I like it. So I started to swing a few kettlebells and then I got on my Peloton bike for like half hour. And in a day, I had just so happened I had been on the scale like the day before, which I almost never do. I probably weigh myself twice a year. I got on the scale the next day. I felt like this felt weird. I felt like my hands were really tight. I just felt really tight. So I got on the scale and I was up after long, 15,000 steps and 30 minutes cycling, whatever. And Jessica knows I used to cycle 2 hours in a row almost every day. I was up 11 pounds in basically water from inflammation. And I thought about that. I thought, oh, that's so, and this all happened like the day before my period. So I was like, this is so interesting. Like, this is probably a cycle I've been doing for years where it's right before my period. So I'm feeling a little, waterlogged. So I work out a little more than I normally would, which triggers some inflammation. And then maybe I fast because I like to fast, which triggers some inflammation. And then maybe I, have some coffee so I can like work out, or I feel like I'm not productive because it's before my period. So then I like get up early and go to bed late to do some writing. And I'm just like, again, stacking triggers on top of triggers on top of triggers. So the moral of the story is just to like learn your triggers and don't stack your triggers. And if you are a person who, like very many of us, finds the very active selling anything or inviting people into anything to be one of those things that activates your nervous system closer into defense mode, don't stack a whole lot of other New Year's resolution style, I'm going to optimize myself behaviors on top of that. Because optimization behavior, self-optimizing behaviors almost inherently are nervous system defense mode activating in the way that most people do them, because they come loaded with all this like implicit judgment that who you are is not exactly right, or all this implicit distrust, right? All this implicit, I gotta, if I want it to happen, I gotta go out and make it happen, which like inherently distrusts the universal powers that be, who we've already decided on this call are way more powerful than any work we can do in the logical, linear, 3D kind of way. So those are the things that I wanted to share. Don't stack your triggers. Don't stack your triggers. Yeah, I know, Nick, right? Just gonna tell you a little short snippet of a story, but then I was like, you know what? Let's go in. And Emily, thank you for saying that. What I do when I do that is I'm watching the numbers of people who stay on. So if I see a big drop off, I'm kind of like, okay. And that's just inside baseball behind how when you're teaching or when you're doing a live or whatever, you can always watch the numbers and see if people are on or off. But yeah, I haven't talked to you guys in a long time. So I wanted to share that. Yes. Okay. Wardrobes and Alfie. Yeah, but wardrobes for me. Yeah, Emily in Paris is also like the worst written show on television. But yes, people are very thin. All of them, actually. Okay, I love y'all. I would like to be seeing all of y'all one-on-one if I haven't already. I think everyone that I can see who is here has a one-on-one booked or has already had one. So that is great. I stand in agreement with you, Jessica Sandow, on anchoring's vibe. And yes, so I am, let me just check really quick and see if Jen has confirmed. She said she would confirm these dates and times. I will for sure look. I will post the dates and times of our sessions with Jen in the school group, but I don't see them confirmed yet. So I won't say anything more about them. Just know that I am planning for them to happen this month. Okay. All right. I love y'all. I'll talk to you guys soon.